What exactly are the top 10 ways people get hacked? So today I'm going to answer that question just by analyzing the owasp top 10. Hi, my name is Bree. I'm an ethical hacker, and today I want us to talk about the owasp top 10. So what exactly is the owasp top 10? This is a list of the biggest security mistakes web applications make. It's basically regularly updated by a non-profit known as owasp every few years, and 2025's release has been the most current, so I want us to have a look at that. So starting off at position number 1 is broken access control. So this is when someone either has access or is able to change something they aren't necessarily allowed to do. So a good example is if you enter a banking website, for example, and you have the ID 123. On the URL where everybody types on the browser, instead of writing 123, just deleting the 3 and replacing it with 4 can actually create a security risk. So if the application doesn't handle this well, you will be able to see somebody else's banking profile. Another example would be instead of denying all information by default, like all applications information is being denied automatically and only allowing access depending on who exactly you are, what role you're playing, what you can do. Instead of that being the situation, everybody automatically has access to everything. So that is a broken access control failure, basically. So again, like let's say when a web application displays information based on IDs, it's, let's say the website goes, hi, who are you? And you go, hi, my ID is 123. And then the web application is like, okay, here is the information you need. You see, it's basically giving out information based on IDs instead of an ideal situation where it would be, hi, my ID is 123, and then the website goes, okay, that's cool, but does that ID necessarily belong to you? So that would be an ideal situation. But in broken access control, basically some, or if not a lot of websites don't follow this. So heading over to position number 2 is security misconfiguration. So this is when all the security tools required are accessible, they exist, but they aren't necessarily being set up properly or haven't been set up at all. So a good example would be default passwords and usernames haven't been changed, new software updates haven't been installed, old unnecessary programs haven't been deleted, proper security configurations haven't been turned on, etc, etc. Now, heading over to position number 3 would be software supply chain failures. So this is when your third-party dependencies experience issues and failures. In short, if your third-party dependencies get compromised, you will also be compromised as well. So this can occur if you're not necessarily viewing or monitoring the dependencies your application depends on. You don't know all your third-party dependencies, you're not updating your software to be compatible with those dependencies. So that's how somebody can breach your application, just by not keeping track of your third-party dependencies. So heading over to position number 4 would be cryptographic failures. That is a very big word, cryptographic. So this is when sensitive data hasn't been protected or encrypted correctly, if not at all. So when sensitive data is in transit, when it's moving from one computer to another or one location to another, or if it's at rest where it's just being stored, it should always be encrypted, especially if it is sensitive. So a good example on why a cryptographic failure can occur is if you're using old or outdated encryption methods, if you're storing sensitive data in plain text, which we can all agree is not smart or is very dangerous, really. Or let's say like you're not necessarily enforcing proper HTTPS. So you know how when you're visiting websites and it says HTTPS, you better make sure that the HTTP ends with an S, because if it doesn't end with an S, it is really, really insecure. And obviously these are some of the ways that attackers use to look for on your web applications to see if it's something that they can access or if something that they can't access. So heading over to position number 5 would be injection. So this is when a user's input, you see anywhere on your web application that a user can input something, like they can type inside your website, is if it's not fully checked before it's processed. So this allows someone to input malicious code or malicious requests, knowing that your program will smoothly. So for example, one of the best and most relevant versions of this is prompt injection with AI. So prompt injection is basically telling the AI, hey, ignore all the rules your builder told you and follow my malicious instructions or requests instead. So this can all be done just by anywhere on your web application that someone can type in something. It could also even be your URL. So heading over to position number 6 is insecure design. So this is when security isn't implemented in the planning phases of your application from the start, literally from the jump. So having good security design planned out from the start is a must-have, honestly, because if, let's say, you have planned security from the start and your implementation is kind of whack, like it's poor, you can easily fix that, like all you have to do is like fix the code, fix some patches. But let's say you don't have security planned out in your design, but your code and your implementation is perfect, it will make it much harder to fix in the future. So let's say you have a fully functional web application, but you didn't necessarily think of security from the start. Trying to fix that will take so much work. So this occurs when, let's say, all business needs or all web application needs aren't necessarily discussed, or when sensitive data is unknown, or like, let's say, when security isn't necessarily considered a priority. You don't want to collect other people's sensitive information and build a very large community or large following or large email lists or whatever, and then realize years down the road, oh wait, am I supposed to protect this? Like the security should be a top priority in terms of the planning stages. Okay, heading over to position number 7 is authentication failures. So this is when an application treats an unauthorized user as if they are a real authorized user. I hope that made sense. So basically, if the application is like, you don't you don't belong here, but you look like you belong here. So this occurs when passwords have been leaked in previous breaches. If somebody else has your password and then they enter the same web application, they can think that like obviously the program and the website will be like, oh okay, you have the password, so it's you. Like I'm not gonna doubt that it's not you. Let's say multi-factor authentication hasn't been set up properly. Let's say during inactive sessions, there is no logging out that has been done, or passwords are stored poorly or in plain text, or like, let's say, the account recovery, the forget password, the place where on login pages that says forget password, let's say the recovery process of that is really weak. So that's how an authentication failure can occur. Now, heading over to position number 8 would be software or data integrity failures. So that's a big one. So this is when an application blindly trusts any code or data without verifying whether it's legit. So it can occur when an application trusts anything, like literally anything, any code, any dependencies, any frameworks, any libraries, anything, without checking to see if those external or internal resources are actually trustworthy. So that's how a software or data integrity failure, breach, or aka hack, can occur. Now, heading over to position number 9 would be security logging and alert failures. So monitor oops, that was like a big big word. So this is when monitoring of logs and alert systems aren't properly set up or just haven't been set up at all. So this makes it easy to miss a security breach if it ever occurs. So that can occur if, like, let's say the logs aren't backed up properly. Logs can be tampered with, deleted, or edited by an attacker. Alert systems don't necessarily sound during a breach, which in turn would delay response time. Like of course, the faster you can detect somebody has broken into your systems, the better it would be for you. And if those alert systems don't necessarily sound, the attacker can go undetected for a really long period of time. So it can also happen if these logs aren't properly being monitored or tracked. Now, in the last position number 10, still very destructive, but this would be mishandling of exceptional conditions. So when an application encounters an error that it has never seen before and fails to handle it properly, it can create further issues that an attacker can exploit. So that's what mishandling of exceptional data conditions will be. So like your computer or like your application is wondering, okay, I have never seen this ever before in my entire life. It's weird and I don't know what to do with it, so this can cause like glitches and stuff like that. So when it comes to the owasp top 10, once you have like this 10 breaches down, like let's say you are able to handle all 10 of them, your applications would be super secure. Not necessarily 100%, obviously at the end of the day nothing can be 100, but your systems would be completely secure. And in the upcoming videos we will talk about how exactly to prevent these top 10 breaches, and I hope to see you in my next video. I'll see you then.